Everyone's quiet.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to go live on Facebook. Okay, we're live. No, we're not. I'm lying. Okay. Okay, now we are.
So nice.
I'm sorry.
What was that?
I don't know.
Hey, we're live
All
now.
right.
We
Yeah,
are
we
live.
are. Okay, cool. All righty. I can't never share, so somebody can share. I don't know. Because this program only uses like Internet Explorer to
You said
get on
Dora,
Facebook. Huh?
Dora the Explorer.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how I feel. Like we stuck in the 80s. But it always goes a lot slower when I use that as opposed to Chrome.
Have you set your default viewer or default internet to Chrome?
For the program, I can look into it. I didn't know that was an option. But I always use Google Chrome. But some programs are like that. They kind of they require a certain you know not operating system. That's not the right word. Browser. I don't know. Okay. All right.
I see Shamaz messing around with his green screen too.
I guess since I don't got no green thing in the back, this is how it looks.
Oh, you look like you finna do computer love. Computer love. Yeah. Go ahead and sing the song. I dare you. Sing with me, Shema.
No.
I think that's Isaiah's call right there.
There we go.
Every Shabbat he be getting his Teddy Pendergrass on.
You know what? Yeah. What? I'm just gonna forego that because we've been live for about the past 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to another episode of Love Language, the Round Table. We never say our names, but I guess it don't make a difference. I thought about that a couple weeks ago. I'm like, we just be talking. But I guess when you talk, it say who you are. But I'm Tamar.
Really, I thought your name was Tamar. Damn.
I mean, it is technically, but my father said Tamar, so I wrote with that. My mom called me Tamar though, so that's actually funny.
I call you Tamar.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna mute everybody because it's always background on my end. So I'm gonna mute y'all because whenever I talk, it's an echo. So my bad. So again, welcome everybody. Love Language the Round Table. Hope everybody's week went well and that your day is going good so far. Today's topic is common God, common ground, ? And I don't even know what prop does to talk about this, but I think it's interesting. I think that outside of the believers that I know of, it's not necessarily a requirement. So I'm interested in finding out, like, for those who don't necessarily care about those things, or not care, but make it that it's an importance. I wonder how that will work when it comes to like forming a union. So that's what we're going to talk about today. As always, we welcome everybody to join in the conversation. This is never like a one-sided thing. It's not supposed to be a one-sided thing. So we only know what we know, and only can share from our viewpoints. We welcome everybody's thoughts, and no matter what your belief system is, because Israel is real scattered. So not Israel, black people are multicultural and for real. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the description of today's topic. It says nearly half of all married adults, so 47%, say sharing religious beliefs with one's spouse is very important for a successful marriage, according to a 2016 Pew Research Center report. But what if you don't subscribe to the same religion? Is your marriage doomed to failure? Are there other foundational truths that trump share religion in establishing a healthy relationship? And then what happens when you add children into the mix? So those are some of the initial questions. So if anybody wanted to start off with some opening thoughts, we'll do that. I'm going to mute my mic, and then everybody, whoever wants to start, can just unmute them. I think if we do that, then we won't be like, who gonna go first? So I'm gonna go mute my mic now.
Unmuted I am. Unmuted I am. This is a great topic. Can y'all hear me? Okay. It's a great topic. What's the name of it again? Got the name on top. I know what it's about. I want to get the topic down pack. Hold on. I'm going to it right now. Somebody could jump in and say it while I find it. Nobody want to jump in and say it, huh?
Common, common God, common ground, question mark.
There you go. Common God, common ground. I think it's, so this is just an opening. I don't need to really put my full thoughts out. I think it's something that should be thought about. I think it shouldn't be ignored when finding a partner, whether finding a male or female. Well, sorry, I'm gonna stop saying female because I saw a post this morning about it, and I usually don't because female can be any type of species. You know, some women, they said some women don't like being called females because it's like, what female are you calling me? You know, female lion, female bear. So I'm gonna say woman, right? I know it sounds crazy, but just in case people watching and they hate that terminology or that term, then I'm just gonna say man or woman. I think it's something that should be spoke about or brought forth in the beginning of any type of union or any type of courting process, because one of the biggest factors that you put up in this post or in this topic is, what about the children? If the children are used to something that is outside of a religion that one of those partners, man or woman, are used to, now you have to think on how that's going to affect the dynamic between the woman and the man, because children can cause arguments, a whole lot of arguments, whether small or big, if you have not put this stuff in play in the beginning. And that's all I got as an opener.
Okay, I'll take the take the reins on this one. I think that this is an excellent subject. But I think, like most of the subjects that we deal with in the show, there's a lot of things that need to be unpacked. Because it would I think it would be a little I don't know. I think it would just be, it really wouldn't be a good look to just simply, answer it like a yes or no. Is it best to have this, or, I mean, generally we could say yes. It makes perfect sense that, that the two individuals have some type of grounding, not just grounding, but a grounding that they can agree on when it comes to religion, and I'll just put that in air quotes. But again, there's a lot that needs to be unpacked, even with that term religion. A lot that has to be unpacked with I think it was the second part where we talked about the question. I mean, the subject was making reference to, can a marriage be successful if it's premised on other areas outside of religion or whatever. There's a lot to be unpacked there. And then of course children. That's always that's always kind of like a rabbit hole discussion when it comes to these type of topics. So I think from a preliminary standpoint, I think that yes, religion there has to be an agreement. Absolutely. To what degree the agreement will be is part of the unpacking, but I'm just going to generally say yes.
Isaiah, you gonna talk, or you gonna stay muted? Just so we know.
I'm sorry about that. That was a pause. Interesting conversation as both, all three of you put. I think as Zeb said, there's a lot of different layers to this whole thing of religion, and even opening up to just saying spirituality. Um, as far as a household concerned, even with children, as Shema said, it could start a whole different course of arguments and conversations on how to raise them and everything else that is kind of intertwined with that. Because each platform or religious ideal or identity has rules and guidelines on how to go about raising children and conducting themselves. Um, so we talk about having a platform or a solid understanding moving into a relationship. I don't see how mutual understanding or respect for whatever the paradigms that may be looked at across that whole spirituality spectrum. I don't see how it can't be how there could be great odds are you do your own thing and I do my own thing with the guise of being in a successful relationship. At some point, somebody's going to have to yield in their belief or yield in their understanding for the other. And when you do that, that leaves a whole slew of other situations. Hopefully, I'm not getting ahead of myself. I don't want to go past our general markers for the show and that we kind of create as we go along. But just a quick example of that would be something to the tune of one person feels this way and they yield. There's pride, there's other elements of emotions that come into place when you kind of put yourself second for someone else, even their religious views. So I'm going to yield on that and let you guys take over. Oh wait, no. Oh, we have some comments here from the live stream. I don't know if his name. Well, he commented, so I guess I could read his name. Lance says, I think understanding is one thing, but it should be a solution where religion is moving forward. Where the religion is forced, communication is key, as always. So best way to take care of that solution is to lay everything down from the start and see what happens, which I agree. And that's something that we've all spoke heavily on, just coming to the table openly about what you feel before y'all decide to do whatever y'all want to do. He also puts, far as the kids are concerned, that's a hard one to tackle because, as mentioned, it will cause a fight. I understand where he's coming from, but unless there's a situation where kids are already intertwined, I feel as though those things can be handled if y'all have that discussion in the beginning. And if kids are there, I think it would be important to kind of talk about how, both parties are going to intertwine with the children and get that out the way. So it might be a necessary fight, if you want to use that term, fight or argument or conversation. It might be one of those hard hurdles that you just kind of have to deal with. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw those in there and make sure the commenters get their voices heard as well.
Yeah, we thank y'all for always tuning in the comments, and we really appreciate it because it helps us to think. I think, well, I'm speaking myself. It helps me to think a little bit more about the topics that we have. So I wanted just to comment real quick about the conflict. I know we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it's a month. I don't know. Time passes so quickly. But we talked about how it's good, like you said, Isaiah, it's good for us to have conflict, because it's not like the conflict is the end of the story. It's just opportunity to bring things to the forefront that will eventually have to be sorted out anyway. So that's actually a good example. That's good what you said about that. But then Zebulon, you mentioned like what's religion, and I don't know what this definition came from. I just Googled it, so I don't know if it's Google Dictionary. Do they got a dictionary? I don't know. But okay, so it says religion. It's the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal God or gods, plural. Then it says a particular system of faith and worship. Then it also says, this is probably, I don't know, a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance. So, and use consumerism, which I guess that's, I don't know. But, so, I mean, people probably know what religion is, but that's a definition that I found. And so that's the context, especially because I think we said, I mean, because the title kind of alludes to the worship portion, but then we just talked about, like, Isaiah, you mentioned spirituality, which I don't know necessarily ascribes to a certain deity or not, but that's just some of the, we can even talk about that. We can talk about the idea of faith in general. So that's all, I just want to add that to it. So I guess, I don't know, do anybody want to jump back in? Does everyone want to jump back in?
Kane, the only reason why I emphasized the issue of religion, it wasn't so much of a definition issue that I had or whatever, but it was more about the practicality of it. Here's an example. So let's take, well, you know what? No, we'll stick with the Israelite paradigm. We'll stick with the us as Hebrew Israelites. And amongst us, there is a segment of our people who are religious Israelites. Then there's a segment of us that are cultural Israelites. And the distinction, of course, is the religious Israelites, and this is not a knock, whatever, but religious Israelites, they're more so at the level of knowledge and theory. Like the sum total of what they believe exists here, but you don't really see it come forth in everyday practical lifestyles.
Agreed. That's a good point.
Whereas, a cultural Israelite has the belief, has the faith and all of that the first group has, but their day-to-day living in all manner coincides with what they know. So for instance,
Right.
when an Israelite is out and about, a cultural Israelite, you'll know them before they even open their mouths. Why? Because, they got their tassels on, or they got their fringes on, or their whatever cultural regalia that they have. They move in a certain way. They have beards. I mean, there's something that you see day to day. When they go out, they're cognizant of what they're eating. When they go to a place, the first thing they're saying is, "Hey, do you guys cook with, what kind of oil do you cook with, or what do you cook with swine?" Or there's an everyday, every moment movement that coincides with the culture of the truth. Then there's a segment, again, the first segment are Israelites who they have an understanding, a knowledge base of it, but in their everyday life, they may not have gotten to the point where it is that truth is important enough to manifest it in their daily living. And that's, again, it's not a knock to them, because maybe that's just where they're at in their development. Everything is just in their head right now. But the reason why I brought that up is because I think that when we understand that there's a difference in the religious Hebrew Israelite versus the cultural Hebrew Israelite, this is going to radically change how a person views having, the importance of having the same beliefs in a marriage. Religious Israelites probably don't see it as a major stumbling block. Some of them say, well, listen, as long as they're not, disrespectful of this, or, whatever, and they kind of dance around it. And I understand it. You know, I get it. You know, because love, you know, the prospect of love, you don't want to, you know, you don't want to rock the boat, you know, with love and stuff like that. You want to, when you see love, you just want to snatch it up and hold it dear. So I get it. But the cultural Israelite is like, yeah, they kind of see things like chess. They see the game way down the road. They see it all the way at the end and say, nah, 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 nah. We got to work some things out because I already know how this is going to play out. And so it becomes very important for the cultural Israelite because their everyday living is embodied in what they believe. So this is not just a belief to them. This is their life. And so when someone comes in and their lifestyle doesn't coincide with that Hebrew's lifestyle, that's going to be a major problem in that marriage because that means that every day my lifestyle is being assaulted by a foreign agent. But a religious Israelite may not necessarily see it as a problem. Why? Because they're not to the point where they're actually living their belief. They only believe what they believe. So that's the reason why I brought that up, that we have to kind of unpack that issue because, again, depending on where you see the truth at in your life is going to determine how important your spouse's agreement with it matters. And I'll yield.
Zeb, you said something real interesting, and it made me want to ask you a follow-up question. You used the word not attack. You used the big word for attack, but I think you said something about like being attacked. But you know, I couldn't phantom that big word that you used. It didn't work in my brain. But
cut it out, Aki.
but okay, so let me get to the question. So if someone feels attacked within their own world, and we know these relationships, marriage, are supposed to be a safe haven from that. How does one circumnavigate that problem? Or what if it's a profound change in thought process, or your paradigm has a shift, so to speak? What do you do from there? And the reason why I ask is because at times, you know, people may, as Lance alluded to earlier, as far as religion and there being a sense of conflict and those things. I believe he said that in his, I can't scroll right now, my screen is frozen. But I believe he said that as far as religion being forced. The only reason I used spirituality is because it encompasses more. It groups more into just because usually when people refer to religion, they look at it from only one standpoint, or a Christianized standpoint, or something like that. I kind of wanted to open it up because there's some people who don't necessarily look towards a humanoid supreme being type of thing, but more so understanding and meditation and you know, other things. So and I don't want to be, you know, bashing towards, you know, other paradigms out there. But let's say, for instance, a person comes into that understanding there, or for instance, I can use, since we're using the as they say, Abrahamic faith. Hopefully, I said that right. There are certain things, as far as like the commandments or stuff like that, that kind of need to be followed. And if you don't do that, then it's a problem. As you alluded to, there's things that we do culturally or, you know, spiritually, that if that other person doesn't agree with, it can breed a lot of problems. So what does a person do when he either comes into that understanding or he wants his companion or her companion, whichever way, to kind of understand or follow along. I think that's what Lance meant by that whole forcing aspect. What do you do next? Or are we talking about the problem itself being there and not the solution? So I don't want to go ahead, but I just wanted to get your intake on that.
I'll give my answer to that, or my viewpoint of that, after brother Shema and brother and sister Tamar brings their platform, and then I'll revisit that question that you just posed. I don't want to just keep double dutching the situation. So I'll bow.
Well, I answer the question from my point of view. Unless we supposed to be speaking on something else right now. Are we? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, I think the best answer goes back to what Chief Zebulon talked about last week and what we was bringing in last week. A lot of these problems and situations that we have can be dealt with in a courting process. Boom. I saw your hands went up when I said that, Zebulon. If this we could stop the show right now. No, I'm playing. But seriously, if everything that we're talking about, I could sum it up in the courting process. You put it all out there. You all come to some type of agreement. You all talk about every scenario that you could think of that might come about in regards to maybe causing conflict within both of you, especially if you have two different beliefs, belief systems. Which that seems like a tough one. I know a few people that are, or two different couples that have two different belief systems, but they've been making it work from the outside looking in. I don't know how it is from the inside though. Anybody could put up a front on the outside. So for me, speaking only with me, I can only deal with someone that is, what is this topic again? Common God. What's the topic again, Tamar? I'm sorry.
Common ground, common God.
I got to deal with someone that has a common ground. My track record of that did not work. Having someone that's not common ground, common God. Now, if you have someone that really doesn't have a belief but has a little knowledge of what it is you are a part of and willing to learn it, that's that courting process that can help you all decide as well. Because I think it is important. That's just me. I think it is important, especially being someone like what Chief Zebulon brought out. I believe myself to be a culture. Do this religion or Israelite as a part of my culture, not just a belief. So if you are someone that's just doing it from a knowledge standpoint, like he was saying, it might be easier to be with someone that is not really a part of it because you're just going off of like, I have a know-how or a know-what dealing with this type of people. But if you're a culture-based Israelite or Yehudit, then it's going to be a little tough, more tough. So that courting is going to be your way of figuring out if you can move along. How do you interact if this person has a child? How does this person view you in regards to coming in the picture with the child? How influenced is this person, man or woman, in that individual that you're courting? Because the influence around them can affect you as well. Think about it, especially if they haven't did this walk with you. Now the family and or friends are looking at him or her differently, which can affect you all too collectively. So to answer your question, I believe that courting is the answer. I'm talking about real courting. And with that, I yield.
And I want to throw a monkey in the wrench. It's not racist, but I'm gonna throw a monkey into the fridge. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about the cultural versus religious thing, because it's possible that you could be with somebody in the beginning, and that like y'all literally met a class, for example. Those things happen, right? And then y'all, you see people that like wasn't together, and then you go back and they're together or whatever, and they have a foundation that they've met on. But as I believe, we're always constantly evolving. Like, I didn't used to wear Zeeks, now I do. And I came from a class where they weren't even pushing that. And they say, oh, we don't gotta do that. Now these Israelites saying that. So it's possible to at least in the Israelite faith. I can't speak for no other culture because I don't know anything about anything else but that. So you could be in the faith or whatever, or in the walk, in the way, however you want to call it. And are you raising your hand? Oh, child, listen. Go ahead, Shema. I'm gonna mute myself. Go ahead.
I'll just interrupt you because me and you come from the same school. So I just want to really throw in there, the school that we came from, the leaders wasn't really cultural. That they wasn't what Zebulon is talking about. So I know what you were going at, but I just want to throw that out there. Like, if I wore this, they'd get on me with, was it 1 Corinthians or something? I forgot.
1 Corinthians 12. We was reading that earlier. Yeah,
Right.
1 Corinthians 12. Yep. So
they're not into the culture. No offense to those that are still friends with me on Facebook that are a part of that class, but they know why I'm getting at with it if they really, sincerely open their mind and see what I'm talking about. So culture is more so what Zeb and what you're doing now. But go ahead. I just want to throw that out there. That school that me and you was at, the leaders wasn't really a part of the culture. They were what he's talking about as far as the knowledge.
Yep, and I absolutely agree. And so I was bringing that up because I feel like you could even be in the way with somebody, and then they have to get out of the way as you get more in the way. You see what I just did there? Little bars.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Because I had a situation just like that where the person was supposed to be in the walk, not supposed to be, but as I grew, they started to like attack, or started to be antagonistic, because first of all, it was like issues like, oh, it don't really say that, or basically you taking it too far. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially going back to the beginning, right? So the school that we came from is no shot to them. I've learned what I learned from them, and it's cool. But there's not a lot of going back to the beginning. It's a lot of the reading the book at the end of the book, and not a lot of the beginning of the book, which is the foundational structure for the rest of the book. So because that, and I'm just saying that as an example to say that you can even do your best and think that you're doing the right thing and still end up in a situation where there will be division in the household. Again, the title is, or the topic is common God. I don't even know, you're confusing me, Shema. I think common ground, common God, common ground, question mark, because it could be that way. And then even on the other side, so forget the Israelite thing for a minute. Let's say I was a Protestant. I wouldn't necessarily marry a Catholic because they be beefing. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people that don't necessarily, I know Protestants that they don't even like Catholics because of the whole Pope thing. So but on paper you would say, oh, they both believe in Christ and they both believe in the Father. Okay, close my door. Go tell somebody else. I love you. So you could even be doing that and there'll still be confusion. So the courting process is cool. And I'm only saying that because I feel like we got to be paying attention at all times. We have to be paying attention, and we have to do what we can and not be mad if something fails, or not feel like we didn't still put in our all. So like y'all said, I'm a big proponent now. I'm a big proponent of courting, but I didn't even know nothing about that till 2 years ago, Shema, when you mentioned it on the lesson. Whenever we interviewed you, that's the first time I ever heard of it. I was like, what? So everything is new, but even in that process, you still have to work out the kinks. And I think that's what the covenant is for. It's a business contract that needs to continually be revised if necessary. You need to add some addenda to it, or whatever, however you're gonna go about this union. It's not like y'all on the same path and y'all get together and everything's cool. Because then, like we kind of talked about, you got now kids are in the mix. Let's say y'all don't got no kids, and y'all both cultural Hebrews. Y'all get, y'all in a covenant or whatever, and then kids coming into play. It's gonna be stuff in your head about child rearing that you hadn't probably talked to your husband about, or vice versa. So things are gonna always come up. I think it's the openness to continue to communicate and to have some semblance of a ground zero, right? So even if we hit these walls, we still gonna come back to the beginning and figure out a way to come back to move forward. But I feel like I rambled. I just want to put that out there about you could still be in the same belief system and still be having some problems. Okay.
I just want to say one more thing. I know I came in already, but I got to do it. I agree with her, right? When I say courting and that contract, I'm talking about put every scenario and situation that you can possibly think of. Think of your family, mother, father, auntie, uncle, think of what they've been through, bring it in the forefront for you two, so that it won't be as many issues as we might think could happen. Like you say, something might pop up. Children. Talk about children before you have them. You know what I'm saying? Bring that stuff out. But during that whole courting, you might be courting for like 6 months to a year. It's a lot you can deal with in that time. And different scenarios could pop up that you all have to speak on. We ain't perfect. It ain't like we're going to know well, I hate saying we ain't perfect. We are not robots. We are not going to think of everything, but make sure your mind is open to anything that pops up so you can speak on it. Because honestly, by the time you have children, you should have already talked about it before even thinking about having children. If you are someone that didn't have a child by mistake. Whatever.
You call your children a mistake? Oh, no.
Y'all know what I mean. But I really believe, I just wanted to put that out there. I think that what you did say, when something pops up, when you all are married, I think that whatever pops up could have been already dealt with in the beginning, but it could be something that you just got to tweak. Kind of like when you think of the Torah, it was things that was put in place, but it was certain things that they just tweaked because of a certain situation that took place.
Right. That's actually a good point.
But it didn't take away from the initial foundation of even that topic. So that's what I wanted to put out there. I'm gonna be quiet 2 turns.
Okay, and just like it was, just like it was covered, from Shema and Tamar, that the importance, I think, of courting cannot be it just can't be understated, because any issue that we bring up, whether in this show or online or whatever, pertaining to relationships, you can always find the initial solution in what were you doing during the courting process. And it reminds me of when you go to on a job interview, and you go in there with this beautiful looking resume, printed out on some nice beautiful paper and whatever, you spend a little extra cents at Office Max for the paper. It looks all beautiful. You go into the job interview, and the employer is like, yeah, okay, yeah, he's reading all your credentials, and he's like, yeah, okay, it all sounds good, absolutely. You know what, we can work with that. But what do most jobs normally do after you've been hired?
Probation.
30-day probation. Why? Because they want to see if what is on your resume translates into real life. And they know that nobody can hold on to a facade but for so long. Eventually, after observation over time, you can begin to see the cracks in a person's character. Like, oh, okay, so now that we done got 60 days, 70 days past, now you get to see what the person is really like in everyday life and not just simply on paper.
That's right.
So of course, courting is always going to be the most important aspect, not only in terms of marriage, but even courting for the sake of friendships. Because even friendships, the scriptures always tells us, you know what I'm saying, that you have to be careful with friends. Do not be in a hurry to trust friends, meaning that you have to take time to see what these people represent before you open yourself to them. So whether it's friendship, whether it's marriage type of relationship, whatever it is, there's a necessity of a good amount of passage of time in order to see how people really play out in real life. You know, anybody can agree to, let's say, you know, to a belief system upon, you know, the initial meeting. You know, you meet a woman, she meets you, and you're like, hey, you know, I believe this. And she's like, yeah, I believe this. Oh, great. Yeah, I can go with that, whatever the case. And then, of course, it sounds good in the initial period, but as time goes on, it doesn't turn out that way, you know, whatever. But if the courting process is done, you know, if it's done correctly and thoroughly, all of these issues would already have been vetted. They've already been weeded out. And this is the reason why, how often do we see an actual occasion of divorce in scripture? How often do you see divorce mentioned? I mean, because it just didn't happen like that, because again, people didn't have a problem with courting for a year, 2 years. I mean, look, I mean, you know, I mean, think about it. Jacob had no problem with serving for years before he was able to step into a situation and say, hey, all right, yeah, now give me my wife, or whatever the case may be. But the whole time period that's going by, you see that there's a learning process, that there's something happening where now you get to see up close and personal what this person represents, and can you move forward in righteousness with them. Now, pertaining to what you mentioned, Tamar, and it kind of cameled back somewhat off of what Isaiah had threw out there about what happens, and I'm paraphrasing the whole both of your points. What happens when the paradigm shifts with one spouse? Let's say you both come into the relationship on the same platform. Let's say you're both from IOG, or you're both from Shema Yisrael, or you're both from whatever. And then something happens where now you're over here and she's over here, or she's over here, whatever. Now what happens? I think this is also something that could have been vetted in the courting process. And I think it was Shema made the comment, or maybe Tamar, about, I think, paying very close attention. Paying close attention, I think it was Tamar who said it, but paying very close attention to these things, because one of the things that you'll find out during the courting process also is, how does a person deal with evolution? Are they open to their thoughts being expanded? Do they see it as more of a opportunity to grow with that spouse, or do they see it as a challenge to their position, whatever? You can see this just in having conversation about ordinary everyday things. You don't even have to have a conversation about relationship. Talk to your prospective spouse about hip hop, for instance. Not so much because of the issue, but you want to see the thought process of the person, how they come to certain understandings about a certain topic. And you can use that as a platform to understand how it's going to play out in a relationship. So if in the process that, so during the courting process, you can actually establish whether or not this person is willing to grow. And you can bring it up to them, say, listen, what happens down the line if, maybe we might come across something and, you might not necessarily see it as the way I see it. Where do we go from there? And if that person is really about this walk, he or she is going to say, well, listen, we're on this journey together. we're going to evolve together. We may not necessarily initially see things the same, the same way at the same time, but that's fine because everybody doesn't vibrate at the same rate. Some people get things immediately. Some people get it over a little bit more time. But if the relationship is really about the marathon and not the 50-yard dash, then it's fine. But are they willing to grow with you? Now, if they're not willing to grow, then maybe you should just, chalk it up and and move forward to the next stage. But if their character is that of someone who wants to grow with you, and they're not afraid of evolution or changing of viewpoints or paradigm, then it works out fine. If they're not afraid of that, that makes it even better. So if there's an understanding from the beginning that we're going to grow together and not just live together, then it all works out, or it all can work out. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's why the Most High afforded us, exit clauses, escape clauses. If it's just that bad, if it's just so bad, oh well, here, take this bill of divorce, and hey, no love lost. So it's there's a lot with that. Again, more unpacking, but the courting process is the perfect way to vet any potential relationship, anything. It vets it out, and you end up saving time, valuable time and opportunity in the process.
Hey, I'm gonna let Isaiah go, but I just wanted to say that last part you just said, very important. Time. Time. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Shema, man, you had same idea actually. Just touching on the aspect of time and how important and crucial that courting. Can't hear me? Hello? Okay, good.
Well, that sounded like Barry White, man. I'm trying to woo the audience. Let's go now.
I wish I did sound like Barry White, man. That was always one of my childhood wants. The beard and the deep voice. I ain't get not near one of them, but I mean, whatever. Anywho, time in the courting process. That time being lengthened to get a mutual understanding of each other. We talk about it a lot on this show. It's just funny how these themes repeat themselves, but it just shows you how, at least across the four of us, how important it is to make sure we develop those things. As Tamar often says, taking that time to get past that customer service representative. Which is basically what we are touching on now.
I love that saying too. Customer service. That was real Hebraically smooth.
But that aspect of time being a big thing. I wanted to touch on something else also that you made mention to, which was asking questions in a roundabout way. Oh, by the way, before I say that, so far, all of the viewers agree that this is a courting conversation when you kind of decide what you're kind of doing with between you two, and getting some of these ideas of what you represent, who you represent, how you represent it. You know what I mean? Y'all made mention between a divide between the cultural. Tell you, man, phones be listening. I didn't ask that. My phone just kind of started doing something on its own. I apologize. Threw me off.
If you recorded your phone properly, it wouldn't be doing things on its own.
Bing, bang, boom. Of course you can. Okay. The viewers agree with you, Shema, as far as talking about unrelated things. But before I get there, you guys have made mention between courting. My phone wanted to chime into the conversation. you guys was talking about the cultural aspect of being within a religious paradigm, in this case being a Hebrew, and the what was the other one, the physical aspect, the cultural, and what else?
The cultural
Religious,
versus the
Religious.
like the
knowledge.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Right, the knowledge. I think in a lot of different cases people fall somewhere in the middle of both. I myself feel like I'm one of them. And I think I wouldn't say necessarily that's because of the classes I associated with. Or yeah, I could say that because that's where I got the understanding from. But I think it's a aspect of where you feel best, or looking at it from a psychological standpoint. You know, things that you like, you can kind of, if you know your partner or that person you're dealing with that well, you can kind of see things like this might interest you, or this might be something you would get into. So you can kind of get that understanding through the courting aspect also. Um, I'm trying to bridge in these comments here, which are hilarious, and stuff that you said. So looking at that whole courting process, it's important. I lost my place of thought, so I'm going to yield myself until I figure out what was I going to say. But it was something that you said, Zebra, but I don't
Mm, 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 mm. Mm, mm, mm.
You sound like my grandma with the.
I used to get that a lot as a kid from everybody. Don't do that to me. No, yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember. So I'm just gonna be
Don't
quiet.
worry, Tame, I got you. We'll come back to you.
No, it's cool. I actually wanted to ask the question about the foundational truth that, so let's just say let's say you're already married, and no, forget that part. Let's say that there are other things that you still vibe with. So I know that we believe what we believe, but speaking of those people who are not as uh committed to the faith, I guess I hope that's not offensive, like you're not committed, you know. But those who are not as intent on following things specifically, um, you know, would they be okay still joining together? And I'm just talking about other belief systems. I don't know who's watching, but if anybody's watching that's like Muslim, or sorry, or follow the Islamic faith, or who might still be a person of color, a black person, but still follows these different tenets. I wonder, are there other things that they can still build on, where, you know, that would still hold them outside of any kind of commitment to a faith system, if that makes sense. If anybody has any like examples from people that they know, would be good. I'm just curious.
I have an example that I could speak on. Sorry, Shema, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Tamar, I also wanted to take the opportunity to kind of tweak your question a little bit. Instead of saying people of a particular faith, how about people who are more fluid with their spirituality? Because I know a lot of, especially being up here on the East Coast, you got a lot of people who tend to take bits and pieces up from multiple spiritual or religious paradigms and kind of mix them in a pot. And that's
Like Plato, they like take Plato, or like Mr. Potato Head, something like that.
yeah, that might be offensive, but Mr. Potato Head,
Hey, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. Thank you.
it's actually a good representation, because you could take some triangle eyes and put a square nose and a rectangle mouth and a butterfly for ears or something like that. You can kind of do a lot with it. So yes, that's what a lot of people tend to do nowadays, especially
Quasi-religious.
yes, quasi-religious is a good way to put it. Especially when the whole world or understanding of spirituality is so vast within itself. It's a very broad terminology, right? So religion seems to kind of narrow in on specific details, but overall it's a whole lot. So going back to the example, I knew a person who was of a certain faith. They were Muslim. The young lady was not. The young lady considered herself of a Christian paradigm, but it was a more fluid paradigm of Christianity, meaning she didn't have a doctrine or a denomination, and she pulled elements from other things um, to kind of make that build of who she was, which I'm not going to say is right or wrong. Individuality is important. Um, their situation ultimately wound up not working simply because there was some steadfast things that he needed within that relationship, and they also had a child. So it was some steadfast things within that relationship that he needed or that he wanted to kind of do. And she said she wanted to at first, but as you say, saying I'm cool with something and then actually having to be cool with something is two different things, which can be expressed in a lot of different conversations that we're going to have in the future.
And
But
it's frustrating too. Just be honest at the gate, man. It's frustrating. Go ahead.
I agree, but even sometimes with that, sometimes we go in not lying about that, thinking, okay, maybe it would work. But when somebody doesn't have proper understanding of something, you is that really them lying or them just being naive to the fact?
There's variables with that. Are they having sex? If they having sex, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be more lenient towards what you're presenting because now they created a emotional bond with you.
I agree.
Now, if it's straight, no sexual. Sorry if it's children listening, but there's no sexual content involved or whatever. Now that person is more likely, not saying they are going to be all the way truthful, but more likely to be truthful in what it is you're bringing.
Okay. I can dig it. I can dig it. We talked. Was that last episode? We was talking about the effects of intercourse and how that can cloud judgment sometimes. Mm-hmm. So that's just another example. But in their case, it didn't ultimately work out. There was just too many differences as far as belief systems and the way that they wanted the household to run. So there was no functionality, which is why this conversation is important, because it gets people to think about that element of functionality. And does the relationship function well at its core when there are two different deities are understanding about life there? So I can give another example of one where it did work out. One of the people I can say were kind of on the atheist side, as far as not believing in anything per se, but just kind of they had no dealings with any form of spirituality at all. And the woman in that case had a deep connection, or a deeper connection, and belief that there was a God, and honoring the moral code that the commandments present. I don't know if their relationship ended or if anyone changed within that, but I can say, to my knowledge, up until then, they stayed together, but that was only because say that word, morality. I can't think of it right now. Morally, they had a connection to the good that the commandments provided. So they were able to kind of settle in on that point. Where did it go after that? I have no idea. But there was I guess a core foundation and something that they were able to build on. So that would just be answering Tamar's question. I'm gonna go ahead and yield it.
Well, in regards to this, man, it's kind of like if you had say if you had a person that was a Muslim faith or Islamic faith, and someone that is identified as I think, see, this is what I said a few shows ago. When I look at Christianity, when I look at the Muslim faith, when I look at Israelite faith, if any one of them truly went from a cultural standpoint, it would be similarities. Think about it. If a Christian actually did what the Bible prescribed, they will be still looked at as Israelite.
That's an excellent point.
If a Muslim, I haven't really studied Islam to the fullest, but I went through the Quran a couple times, but I still believe if they went from the core, you would still battle to find out, wait, are you Muslim or are you Israelite? So my whole point is, if you deal with somebody, or even, Judaism, all this stuff, it's all like, it has a commonality. It's some little tweaks here and there. But if the core was the Bible, any one of those three could still go together, man and woman, considering one of them are one of those three. They can still mesh if they really went by what they call the Bible today. That's my take. I don't know if y'all wanted to transition to another or comment off what I just said, then transition to another part of the show. But
I want to see if Zebulon wanted to comment before we transition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was actually going to make a subtle transition as well, because I think we kind of like, hit the religious / cultural paradigms pretty well. But I will say this in respect to what Shema said. And I think this is where a lot of the difficulties arise in relationships, because a lot of times when we get into these relationships, we have a tendency to try to focus on the general, on the more, just the general beliefs or whatever like that. And that's good, because listen, what like you were talking about with, brothers of the Islamic faith, I used to be Muslim, late 80s, early 90s. So I've already was submerged in that. And I will say this, that outside of the general agreement on culture, things that's where the similarities really end. Once you get into the theology of it, the theology is in many areas radically different. And of course, some Muslims will try to gloss over certain things and say, oh, no, it's the same God and whatever. But again, as a former Muslim, it really isn't. But there's a lot of, I think the culture is nearly identical, because of course the Arabians and the Israelites come from the same Shemitic lineage. So therefore a lot of the cultural norms and mores are going to always be there. So you can be like, oh yeah, okay, they do this. Oh, we do that too. Oh, we bow our head and, to the ground when we pray. Oh yeah, so do we, whatever like that. Oh, and that's great. But that's also where a lot of the deception can come in, because it's in those details. It's sort of like signing a record contract. Someone puts a record contract in front of you and you look at all of the money you're going to get, like, oh, okay, it's a $500,000 advance and all of this good stuff. And you're like, oh, this is a great contract. But it's the fine print that's going to get you screwed.
Yeah.
Once you sign the contract and now you're sitting there like, oh yeah, the 500,000, but I have to actually pay that back out of my rent. So it's the details, and that's the reason why contracts are always 20, 30 pages long,
Mm-hmm.
You're only looking at the first couple pages where they're telling you what they're going to give you, but you don't look at the other pages where they say what you're going to give them.
Mm.
And so in relationships, a general agreement is good, because the general agreement is important because it gives you the opportunity to push the courting process further. Because now you're like, okay, we agree on certain general things. Okay, we believe in the Ten Commandments. Okay, we believe in, or we believe that we're Israelites. Okay, we do all of that. That's great. Now let's go into the details of it, because it's the details that's the part that you're living every single day.
That's right.
So for instance, let's say, just as an example, let's say, well, let me not make it personal, but let's just say a brother and a sister is courting, and he asks her a question like, oh, so do you believe in the Israelites, the redemption of Israel, as a people? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool, because I believe in the same thing, that as a people we have to be redeemed. Now we're in agreement on that, and because of that, we're willing to move forward. But now down the line, we come to find out that brother, his understanding of redemption might be through the keeping of the law and through the returning of King David, according to Ezekiel. And she might see it as, yes, keeping the law, but the return of Christ. Now we have a problem. We agree generally in the redemption of Israel, and that redemption is going to be sent from the Most High. But the detail of it is very key, because now if she's saying, hey, Shalom Bahashem Yahweh or Yahweh Shai, I might be like, yeah, we're going to have to insert David in there or something else. And now that's going to be a constant, especially how let me not say many, but a good portion of Israelites who believe in Christ, some of them are more Ebionite in their orientation, they're more sensible, and some of them are very, very religious. So you can't just simply say, oh, let's just put Christ to the side. They're gonna be like, what? And this is where the problems come. So it's always in the fine print of any covenant that you have to pay attention to. Remember, the first contract ever signed without paying attention to detail was the Mount Sinai covenant. Remember, the people came immediately and said, whatever you say, we will do.
Right.
And it's like, okay, now that you've agreed to that, yeah, outside of these 10 commandments, there's a few hundred more that you need to know about. Mm-hmm. Here's some. And then, of course, the Most High, gave us the fine print, so that we understand that because if we're going to keep it general, then we can definitely live amongst the Moabites and the Ammonites and all of the other ites that our ancestors were among, because many of them spoke the same language, had the same general framework of theology and culture. It wouldn't be no problem. But the Most High is like, no, you are a peculiar people, meaning a very different from amongst my other children. You're different. And these rules and regulations are going to show how different you are from them. Many Asiatic or Shemitic people already believe in wearing fringes on their garments. You can look at the Assyrian archaeological finds, Babylonian finds. Hebraic peoples already believed in wearing fringed garments. But what did the Most High say? But upon your fringe, put a border of blue to distinguish you. So now it's like, oh yeah, fringes. Oh, but he has blue. Well, she has blue. Oh yeah, those are Israelites. That's so right. So it's always in the fine print, the detail. These things are important because, again, you can generally agree with somebody, but the fine print is where you live your life every day. And if that life, and if that method of lifestyle is constantly disrupted by someone who says, oh, well, I don't agree with those details, or I don't whatever, then it's like, okay, so why are we together again?
That's right.
Like why, like what are we trying to do here? And this, of course, is going to lead us into those next points of discussion.
Before we go into that, I gotta say how right he is right now. I got to say how right he is right now. I think Tamar remembers the mother of my son. Okay. So we both. I was in the truth, quote unquote truth, about I want to say maybe a year before she came around, something like that. And it was more so kind of how me and you was just speaking on how he said IOG, some say IOG too. It's a difference from cultural versus religious. So we was all on board with the religious thing. But then I started what Zebulon would say, evolving more into the cultural aspect, still keeping the religious knowledge and everything. But I started having a heart for the culture of my people, how they thought, how they ate, how they lived, how they walked, what they wore. And I remember when I mentioned that, and I remember it vividly. This is how I got real close to Darrell. I brought this on your show, your radio show, when you was on your show, how I actually brought head coverings. Every Shabbat, which I used to go by Shabbat starting Friday, but every Friday it was a group of us got on the phone and we started, each one of us kind of taught a lesson, so to speak. And I came with the head coverings. Man, do you know how many friends I lost that night? That night. Oh, you tripping? Wait, I'm talking. How am I tripping? We see all in the culture, everybody wearing head coverings, but it's one place in the whole Bible that talks about not to. I say, y'all are the ones that believe in precept upon precept upon precept to the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. That's one witness. Man, I lost everybody. And then shortly after I started, I lost her because I wanted to wear my fringes. I wanted to wear and I had the same spirit. I had the same fruits of the spirit. Anybody that knows me now and knows me personally will say that. Not me just saying them out of my mouth. Like this is the first year that I've been bold enough to say I'm real good at music. I'm real good at writing. And now I can say that I know my character from a standpoint of fruits of the spirit is there. So what I'm saying is if I got the same fruits, how am I turning into this I'm falling away person, which is not a term in the Bible anyway, if I'm not mistaken. But how am I this? So my point is I'm going back to what Zebulon was bringing out, that happened. So I'm glad he kind of corrected me. He didn't say he corrected me, but he kind of corrected me when I just brought out Muslim, Christian, and Israelite had a commonality. Yeah, that's good on paper, like he said. And that's facts. That's good on paper. But now it's like the details. Because guess what? You're either going to, when you do get with someone that does not want to go by your details, you're either going to give in and disregard your own faith or belief to please them, or you go stand your ground. And me personally, I have not, the person that I've become through the culture, the language, and understanding our past ancestors who was led by the Most High, I can't leave that, man, because this has saved my life. You have no idea. I'm having a little testimony right now. I almost want to tear up when I say this. It saved my life from a moral standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from just everything. So I appreciate you correcting me indirectly. Moray, you probably didn't even try to do it. I see you, but you did. So I appreciate y'all. Praises of the Most High. Go ahead, y'all.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? I could attest to the same. I'm just gonna grab the rest of that out. That thought process about the word salvaging us. You know what I'm saying? And getting back. And I'm gonna throw this out, and I'm gonna get back to the topic. But even something as simple as the world wants justice and order, but the laws give you that. You know what I'm saying? So I absolutely agree. And for me, because I need structure. Like I need to know where I can and cannot go, or what I can and cannot do, or even what to expect and stuff. So it's definitely a benefit to having some kind of foundational truth. I would never make nobody believe what I believe, but I think so. I guess I'm just saying to anybody that's listening, why somebody might be so adamant about their belief system is because they obviously think it's beneficial to their lives. So it's not a you versus them. It's just we're all convinced about what we're convinced about. Even somebody who's an atheist has a belief system, whether they want to say it or not. So But I did want to bring out two examples, just of people, because we're talking about examples. And one example is of an older woman that I know, and she was married, and I think that her and the husband was already walking together, and then the husband found the word, or found, his belief system, and then she was still going to the church she used to go to, the whatever church. So I'm not sure what happened in the beginning, but they were together, they already had kids, and he was doing what he was doing. And what she did as a wife, because women are called to like kind of lay down, either get down or lay down. So she kind of was trying to do that. And so she gave examples. She said, well, I didn't necessarily agree with him, but I would still like make sure that I fix him what he needed to eat according to what he understands is clean and unclean. So she was doing all these different things, and the man still left her, like put her away, and married somebody that was more aligned with what he was believing. Now, in the context of that situation, I don't know how much years passed. I want to say 10 years passed, and then now she is believing the same thing that this man who put her away is believing. So I'm only bringing that situation out because, going back to the fruits of the spirit or whatever, just being patient, being long-suffering, period, which you can find that in the Torah. You can find long-suffering just by the sacrifices. That's a form of long-suffering in my personal opinion. So just kind of like, I would say to anybody who's already in a relationship, like a marriage, like an actual covenant, I personally wouldn't say dip out on that. I would say wait and see what happens. Of course, everything is subjective, because if it's a harmful situation, you don't want to be in a household where the person is like calling you the devil, you know what I'm saying? But if the person is like this example is a real life example where, I don't know, but maybe if he would have waited a little longer, she would have, came to it on her own. I don't know. But that's an example of where jumping the gun it needs to be thought through. The other example I'm going to give is of a much younger couple who they knew each other in high school, and they have like several kids now, but they're still relatively young. I think they might be 30, maybe they're younger than that. But when the husband first came into the understanding, his wife was totally not even trying to, air quotes, I hate the word submit, but she wasn't even trying to like cooperate. So she was bringing Christmas trees in the house, whatever, and he was like, we shouldn't be doing that. Then, by her testimony, because she told me this, she said that after a while, he left her alone. He wasn't combative to her. He kind of just left her alone. And she said that she got a vision in her dreams that told her what she should do. And then now they're together, and they're the cutest couple in the world. All the children are beautiful, and they praise the Most High, blah, blah. So I'm just giving those examples out because, like I said, I think last year, I'm a forever optimist. I believe in the hope and the redemption and the restoration of our families. I feel like we, the whole, like, I think we talked about it a while back about, I think Zebulon mentioned, like, with Christ, with the instructions he was given was based off of ideal situations. But we all know our lives are not ideal in any sense. We come into things later. We come into things not knowing what we supposed to be doing. Like not all of us, but we've said that we came into the understanding. Shema said we came into the understanding, and then now we don't even think the way we used to think. You know what I'm saying? So it's just understanding that, and I think that kind of waiting things out to see. I'm just saying for those people who are married, just waiting things out and see how they go. And then I would never tell anybody what to do, but that has to be put on the table too, because everything is not black and white. And sometimes the things that you agree upon will be enough to keep your household going until you do agree upon. Because you're right, Jamal. Either the person who has the belief system, they'll either like compromise or they'll stand strong. Either or. But the same thing with the other person. They might be combative, or they might be like, you know what, because that's what the woman I mentioned, the older woman, the people that ultimately kind of encourage her. Well, not encourage, but opening the door for her to even see that this other way of living was good was her daughter and her son-in-law. So it wasn't even the husband, the former husband. It was like, oh, nobody else around, But it was the mannerisms of her daughter and her husband that eventually changed her mind. Because again, like you said, Shema, it's a lifestyle. It's a it changes you from the inside out. So I don't want to be preachy, but letting that be the thing that convinces other people, starting out with that, and then, but definitely courting is good, and not even getting into that situation. But I don't know.
That's why I was trying to say too, real quick.
Yeah.
Like I said, I 100% agree with what Zebulon, Bode Zebulon was saying. On the other side, that's kind of rare. I would say or add to that, like if it was like that lady that you brought out, the one that wasn't doing it fully, but she was trying to please what he was doing, didn't disrupt what he was doing, his lifestyle, his ways. I'm talking about to the fullest, like if she, I mean, you didn't say this, but just just an example, if she did Christmas, which is still, they did Christmas and all that, like would she push that on him knowing that's not a part of his belief? Would she bring that in their home? I know a couple that he actually the one that introduced me to the walk, due to me asking a specific question. I just came up to him and said, man, I think we the children of Israel. We was at the gym just working out. He said, why you say that? I said, man, no offense to everybody else, but we age better than anybody. I said, we had a point where we couldn't even read. Now we done caught up to them and outshining them and academics. You put us in any situation, he was like, well, you know what? He said, man, that's some good thoughts towards it. But here, check out this website. That's why I looked up IOG. But my point is, his relationship, his wife does not do it at all. But I think she do bring a Christmas tree in the house. But other than that, they don't. She kind of respects it from what we see. So my point is, I don't know. I guess you can go that route. Me personally, in my home to come, I couldn't. I don't know if I could do that part. Like I don't. It's certain. Like you, if you got to do those those holidays and stuff like that, it just can't be in my home. It could be if you got to go to your family and stuff. That's up to you. I get it, but because of the things that I would present as to why is going to make sense. You know what I'm saying? But I don't knock people that do it. I just want to say that I don't knock people that do it. I just don't. So y'all just got me thinking now, like if I do end up with somebody and that's just like really, really, really strong in their life, that's something to think about. You got to see how strong it is in their life and are they willing to do like what that lady you just brought out would do. Now you got me thinking.
Yeah, whoever wanted to jump in, you may just want to say something.
Oh no, I assume that you were gonna transition because I know there was a couple other platforms that y'all wanted to bring up. So
Yep.
Definitely that child. We gotta talk about the child part
Yeah,
too.
that's what I was getting ready to say. I was gonna say that. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, y'all for reminding me of that. But the children, right? So then, how do you? What about the kids? You know what I'm saying? You got kids, and this is if you don't. This is if you're either coming into a covenant with somebody who already has kids, or you both have not been religious or whatever until until the relationship has progressed, the marriage has progressed. So then what do you do? How do you introduce the idea of faith or belief system or spiritual quasi-religious polytheism? How do you introduce that to the kids, and how would you start that conversation?
well, for me, first and foremost, what I'm about to say, I'm not saying it as doctrine. I'm not saying that this is official Hebrew Israelite understanding. I'm only saying that from my experience, this is my vantage point, and that is that in those type of scenarios, children are always going to be a casualty of war, one way or another. Now, sometimes, in some cases, it may not be that bad. It just might be an issue of just like just a little bit more resilience on the part of the believing parent to kind of balance out, the nonsense. But in some cases, it's literally a war, and the children become casualties. Because what ends up happening is, if one parent is adamantly in favor of that particular belief system or culture, whatever it is they're espousing, and the other spouse is adamantly opposed to it, like just like not even indifferent, just like whatever. Both of these energies are going to be present with the children, and one parent is not going to effectively be able to present their platform to the children without undermining the other parent. You're going to have to necessarily for instance, let's say it's a Christian. The one spouse is a Christian and the other one is a Muslim. And I've actually seen this. I've actually seen people, a Muslim man go marry a Christian woman. Which, of course, as a former Muslim, I just never understood the logic of that. But in any event, because Shiites and Sunnis don't even get along. So how can a Muslim and a Christian? It's insanity. But I know a couple. Interestingly enough, neither one of them believe what they used to believe now. Anyway, but at one point it was a Muslim man with a Christian woman, and it was very difficult for the Muslim man to instill the tenets of Islam, the 5 pillars, of Islam to his I think he had 2 boys. Yeah, he had 2 sons. Trying to instill the idea of stating that Allah is the God and the only God, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Rasulullah is his messenger. Can you imagine him telling the children that, and the wife is like, excuse me, Christ is the messenger of God, whatever. And now that's a major issue now, because now the children, they may be able to go back and forth and debate that amongst them and pull out the books. She pulls out the writings of Paul, he pulls out the hadith, and they can just go battling. But the children are not battling. They're taking all of this chaos and they're like sponges and they're soaking it up, because they're not at an age, especially if they're very young, they're not at an age where they can sit there saying, yeah, Abba made a very good point with that. That's a very good. Mommy was a little slipping on that situation. Or they're not going to rationalize the situation. They're going to be like, and now the seeds of confusion have already been planted in that child. So now the child gets older, and what's going to happen? Their belief system is going to be in turmoil, because now they're going to think that if they choose one side over the other, it's going to be an affront to that parent. So if that child says, you know what, I'm going to go and take my shahada and I'm going to come into al-Islam, that child's going to feel some kind of way, because now he's looking at mommy. And mommy's a devout Christian. And mommy loves Christ, and she serves Christ with all of her heart. And the child sees that, knows that his mother is, really, really a good Christian, but he can't follow Christianity. He's going to break his mother's heart. Because now his mother looks at him like, wow, my son's going to hell. Like, he's my son, my baby's going to go to hell. And vice versa. If the child chooses Christianity over Islam, what the father's already thinking. Like, yeah, son, you're finished. You're going to hell. No 70 virgins for you. So, and he's finished. So now he's finished. So, the child now, there's an emotional battle with this child. The child is like, well, I don't want to become Muslim and then hurt my mother, but I don't want to become Christian and hurt my father. These are the people who eventually become agnostic. they're the ones who become, either they become agnostic, where they're just like, you know what, I believe there's a God. I just don't know what to believe pertaining to how to worship. I'm just not going to deal with it. Or they become quasi-religionists. They just start believing a whole plethora of things. Whatever appeases his mother, whatever appeases his father, whatever appeases his friends, they'll just come and just embrace all of that. You basically become like Malachi York. You just, whatever you believe, whatever you need to believe to appease to whoever it is that you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do that, even if you and the other spouse fix your issues, let's say you and your spouse, y'all come to a certain understanding, but the damage has already been done in that child's mind. That child has now been introduced to the power of confusion. And it's a confusion that's different than an academic confusion. Spiritual confusion is worse, because with academic confusion, all you have to do is just work out the logistics of it and figure out, oh, okay, well, this is the way I need to go. With spiritual confusion, there's that threat of eternal damnation hovering over your head. And they're like, well, I don't want to make the wrong decision because I don't want to lose my soul, and whatever the case. So now it just becomes a horror show. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen in every case, because again, this is just maybe a worst case scenario, but it's a realistic scenario. It happens. It happens a lot. And I just think that again, these are things that are dealt with and should be dealt with during the courting process, and why you don't even deal with anybody in a marriage situation who does not have at least the same general platform. What are those general platforms? Do you believe that the Most High Yah, or the Most High is Yah or higher? Do you believe that he is the Most High? Yes. Okay. Do you believe in keeping the laws that he gave to his people to the best of your ability? Oh, you're a Torah keeper? Cool. Now we can go forward, because Ecclesiastes 12:13 tells us that very same thing. That let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Fear the Most High, keep his commandments, for that is the all of man. That is the whole duty of man. We agree on that. Everything else can be reasoned out. But if we're not in agreement on that, if someone is saying, yeah, I believe in God, but I'm not, all that keeping law stuff, I'm not really with that. You start giving them the Cat Williams look like. And so, and again, it's difficult when it's two spouses going through it. And even if they fix the situation, children are casualties. And in worst case scenarios, the parents will use the children as a bargaining tool. They'll try to deliberately undermine, so you'll have the Muslim, he'll deliberately undermine the Christian woman, his Christian wife, by, during Christmas, he'll bring in something Islamic to kind of undercut the whole Christian, Christmas, and I'm just assuming that, we're assuming that Christmas is part of Christianity, but, or she, during Ramadan, she'll come and tell her son, hey, listen, I just picked up some Domino's pizza. Want some? So now the son's like, yeah, I was just going to continue to fast and eat these dates at sundown, but I'll take the pepperoni pizza. So, and again, I know people who've experienced this. So that, there's this constant battle. Like they say, there was a war in heaven. Well, there's a war in the household. And the woman and her angels is fighting against the husband and his angels. And the only ones who's going to ultimately suffer is the children. Because at the end of the day, the wife could say, you know what? I'm tired of this nonsense. Give me a bill of divorce. Or the man could say, you know what? I'm tired of this crap. Here, take the bill of divorce, whatever the case, and they can part ways. And even if they part ways in peace, the children have already been affected. And now, not only spiritually, but now they have to deal with the loss of their parents in the same house. So they're jacked up, you know, from a relationship standpoint, they're jacked up spiritually. Their mind is tossed. So that it's a horror show. But that's just my vantage point. I'm not saying that as if it's a, you know, as if Moses came down from Sinai with that understanding. But it's just my vantage point, you know, and I just think it needs to seriously concern us and how we move, you know, go about in these interactions courting wise.
Chief Zebulon, I missed like 1 minute and a half for what you just said. Is there any way you could just sum up that last like 2 minutes? Because I had to, my daughter, mom just came and got her. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, with all of that said, you know, basically just saying that, you know, that it's very important that we, you know, that we keep in mind that during the courting process that we have, you know, we have to be circumspect in all of these detailed platforms that we have, because at the end of the day, we might go on and separate, you know, the man might separate from the woman and fix all of that. It's like, okay, you believe what you believe, I believe what I believe. You know, sort of like what a surah in the Quran says, that there's a surah called Al-Kafrun, to the unbeliever, basically saying, you don't believe what I believe, I don't believe what you believe, you will not believe what I believe, neither will you believe what I believe, unto you your religion and unto me my religion. And we can keep it moving. But even with all of that said, the children are still damaged. Now that mess has to be cleaned up. And so rather than do all of that, all of these things can be worked out and should be worked out. Again, we keep going back to the courting motif, and I think that's one of the most important parts of this show. You go back to the genesis of a matter. You go to the genesis, straighten it out in the genesis, then you don't have to worry about revelation. Because it's already been straightened out in the beginning. You can go forward and be like, oh, everything now makes sense. But it's when you get it wrong in the genesis, when the genesis is jacked up, you can forget about everything else.
That's right.
So that's what we need to do. We just need to, you know, focus on and be mindful that, you know, that regardless of anything, our children are going to become casualties of war. Now, how we go about fixing that is a whole, maybe that's a whole nother topic for another day and another show. But I just think that that's important, that they're going to be casualties in this war.
Azia, you want to say something or no? Nope. Okay. Oh, Shamal, did you want to jump in?
No, I'm good right now. He doesn't hit it. He doesn't hit it with a big hammer.
So yeah, so I'm gonna add another example. Again, because you could be like when I was married, I just use my marriage. When I was married, when I first met him, similar to you, Shamal, I was like I got dipped in the water August, and I met him 2 months later. That's how quick it was. But so we didn't necessarily have the same belief system. Like he used to be a Catholic, was raised Catholic, but he was questioning it, the whole thing growing up. So he was kind of like the black sheep in his family as far as religion is concerned, because he was questioning, like, this ain't in the Bible, why are we doing this? So anyway, but over time he ended up committing to the walk that I was on. And then, but even in that, because, and I don't want to get into the whole gender thing because that's a whole nother topic, but even in that situation, I was like the main one who was teaching our kids. And so it became, similar to the earlier example I gave, it came to the point where it was still like a conflict in the house, because it was like, I guess he wasn't really as into it as I was. I don't know, but he wasn't into it as I was, and so then me even teaching the kids was a problem. Like I remember one time I was in the kitchen. I think this was like the beginning of the Shabbat or whatever. I was in the kitchen. We was doing our little lesson, and he yelled from the other room, "Don't listen to your mother. She can't teach you because she's a woman." So I'm just telling you that. Yes, I'm just telling you that I've gotten that my entire walk. So it's to the point now where I don't even care. I don't care. Like nobody's gonna shut me up unless I'm talking against the scriptures. That's kind of how I feel. Wow. So, and I want to send out the, okay, stay focused. So anyway, I'm just saying, even in that situation, even in a situation where you are both on the same page, ego can eventually rear its ugly head. So courting is cool, but I want us to continue to just be cognizant of what happens when you end the covenant. Like, are you gonna let? And that's a mature conversation and probably another conversation. But the ego is a big thing in all of us. Like, nobody wants to be one-upped, even if you're not one-upping the person. Nobody wants to feel challenged. Going back to what you said, Zebulon, and I'm glad that the Holy Spirit, thank you, just reminded me of that point. Because you said something earlier about wanting to grow and evolve and having that mindset. You said it last week on the show that that's like a what's the word? It's like an aphrodisiac. Okay, and it is, and I think that that's another example of some of the common foundational truths that you could kind of have that won't necessarily trump religious or faith-based commonalities, but even just somebody being able wanting to grow, like even in that mindset. So I'm just throwing it out there as another measure of compatibility that could either ruin or solve any kind of dilemma that happens in a relationship. So I just want to throw that out there because I think that's important too.
And I just want to just say too, just for anybody who's listening or watching or whatever have you, that of course when we talk about courting and we talk about how the Torah gives us directions in certain issues, whatever. The Torah was never. The Torah is written in such a way as to give us the guidelines on how to address and fix situations. It does not prevent all situations. Why? Because you have to factor in the human factor. That we're not like the Most High in the realest sense of the term. Like we say, okay, yeah, we're in the image, yeah, whatever, cool. But realistically, we do not think like the Most High. The Most High can, has a certain quote unquote a perfection in his understanding of how to move, and we know that. But we, because we deal with ego, because we deal with all of these elements of being people and having hang-ups of not wanting to be wrong or not wanting to be challenged, whatever, because we have that, the law does not fix all of these problems. It simply gives us the guidelines on how to address it. And if we address it in righteousness, according to the letter of the law, and also in the spirit of that law, because the letter is what it is, but the interpretation of it is what they refer to as the spirit of the law. What is the intent of that law? If we approach it that way, then we can go about and fix whatever scenario needs to be fixed. And that's the reason why the Most High gives us the exit clause. Like, okay, in the event that it can't be fixed, bill of divorce. If you just absolutely can't do these things. So I just want to just put it out there, because I don't want people to get the impression that that when we talk about courting, that we're saying that courting is the fix all, solve all situation. Because no, there's been many Hebrews who did the whole courting 6 month, a year process, and the man and the woman were in the same camp, and they wear the same length tassels, and everything is all incredibly great. And then somewhere down the line, you're looking at her and she's looking at you like, you filthy whatever, and and things happen, but again, that's the human element of it, so again, the law is not meant to fix every situation. It is only to give us the guidelines on how to go about fixing it. And if we can't fix it, there's a law that fixes that. So I just wanted to just put that out
Yeah. Just want to piggyback on that. Courting is just something a lot of us. Reason I mention it a lot is not necessarily for a lot of people that are aware of it. It's more so for people who aren't. And I think that it really, 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 really can prevent things. Will it prevent everything? Heck no. Like y'all been mentioning things could pop up. Evolution, things could
pertaining to children. Something could be, Most High forbid, something could be. What if something happens to your child? Some type of defect or whatever. It's like so many different. I know that was kind of weird me saying that, but I'm saying that's not placed in there. How you would react to it is not. How your faith can change, whether being the male, the man, or the woman. It's so many factors. I just use the Corden as a foundation, a starting point, a really good starting point. But dealing with like the children, man, y'all hit it already. I don't even really, man, I don't have anything to add to that part. It's like, that's a tough one. Now, it's like, man, and then the age factor of the children. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you come into a relationship with somebody that has a 1-year-old, a year and a half, that's probably way better than coming into someone that has a 7-year-old that done seen six. Well, that really, really is aware at least 5.5 years of knowing what Christmas is, or knowing what the Easter Bunny is to them, or knowing what all these things are. Now you got to try to convince this person you're with to why is really irrelevant. Why July 4th is really irrelevant to so-called Black people. It's much easier when they're younger. So it's like, that's something I don't know if you said that while I was gone, but if y'all didn't say nothing about that, that's a big part too, the age factor. Man, that's tough. If you really think about this topic, it's a tough topic. Well, regardless of us bringing up Corden, now we got to talk about, okay, what about the maturity of the man or the woman when dealing with these differences?
And mind you, briefly, this is why there's a growing contingency, a cadre of Israelite brothers, and I'm just going to use the men because I would have to hear it from a sister to understand their perspective on this. But as men, there's a growing cadre of brothers who are against courting women who have children. And because I'm a fair person, I don't necessarily, go from this side or that side, but I understand where they're coming from, because what's going to end up coming as a man, it is our duty to come in or into any situation to what? To be fruitful, multiply, meaning multiply yourself and fill the earth. A man comes into a situation wanting to start a family so that he can see a family in his image, after his likeness, as the Most High instructed Adam. Men go into that thinking this. Now, even if the woman with the children is open to that, what's really happening here? He's coming in and has to undermine what their father had already taught them. Yeah. If that's in fact what happened, because it might have just been the father just voted out and it's just been the woman, raising them. But in this scenario, he's coming in to undermine what the children have already been taught. And now he has to do battle with a man that he doesn't even see. He's battling, this new husband is battling this man's legacy. Those children is that man's children. That's his seed. Regardless of how good of a man that we want to be to them and be the great husband to step in and do that, that's all great. And I'm all for that. But the reality is those children belong to another man. And we don't, and regardless of what the scenario might be, you're doing battle against that legacy. You're coming in and overturning things that has already been established. And some men are not fond of that for ego reasons and also for realistic reasons. Like, hey, because what if that child says, listen, you ain't my father taught me this.
Yeah.
His position as a father figure has now been compromised because the child doesn't respect one. Like, dude, yeah, you are with my mother, but you're not with me. my father taught us XYZ. And so it becomes that battle. And then sometimes even the mothers might look at it the same way. He comes in and she might be like, well, we already kind of got this understanding going, and your understanding is going to disrupt what I've been teaching my children. So that's another issue that pops in that has to be considered. And so I understand why some brothers are like, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to, I just can't deal with a woman who already has children. Not because there's anything wrong with the children or the woman, but because there's an uphill battle that could be there for him. You know, and it's the same thing with sisters. A sister might not want to get involved with a brother who has children of his own, because she now has to do battle against those children's mother's legacy. And so I'm just bringing that up because just like Shema said, just like what Tamar said, that these scenarios, these are real life scenarios, not best case scenarios, but real life. These things happen. And now how do we go forward and deal with them? Which again, maybe we need to have a part 2 to this segment.
We probably do.
But these are situations, that have to be dealt with. And just like with the marriage situation and agreeing on certain things, what is going to be the agreement on the children? How do we go about raising these children together? Am I fighting against the father's legacy? Are you fighting against the mother's legacy? And whatever, and how is that going to affect the relationship going forward? Because now there's a certain doctrine that we've created, a certain doctrine of how we understand this situation with the children. How is that going to affect us going forward as a couple? It's a lot. So I agree with both of you. It's a lot of real life scenarios that have to be dealt with, and that can cause a lot of problems, in a relationship. Not just the obvious ones that we discussed earlier, but some of the more difficult ones as well.
You know what I want to bring out real quick on what you were saying, because it is a few variables, like say if the woman does have children, she's been teaching them, the ways of Yah and things like that. I think that if she is a discerning, spirit-led woman and instills that in her children. Now this is the best case scenario, like you would say. Then if she picked the right man, it can grow in unison. But that's best case scenario. Now, on the flip side of it, I always bring up 2 scenarios. And correct me if I'm wrong on the one within the Torah. When they had to go in and take over basically kill.
Yeah, like Joshua, the book of Joshua. Yeah.
They had to get rid of all. They did the children and stuff too. I think the males more, the boys more so than anything too. But that's one side of it. But here's what I always look at, and I bring this up, and I think this is why it's like this. And I know it sucks, and I understand where the guys are coming from. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to not be with a woman that has children. It's just my hope that, things could pan out, because I understand the logic behind it. But I just typed something in. It's something that I grew up knowing, especially being in this so-called truth. I know y'all probably know about this too. Male lions. Are y'all familiar with male lions do?
Mm-mm.
It says when male lions take over a new territory, they almost always kill the pride's cubs, since they are not biologically related and do not want to spend energy ensuring that other lions' genes will be passed on. They can't be stepfathers, hunters told Life Science. Now, I know that's animals. I get it. I'm just talking about why. Why are they doing that? Why do we, and I don't know if this might be a different topic, I'm sure. Again, I am someone that could be with someone that might have children. Just my hope they real young. Because it'll be a lot hard if the person that I'm talking with is not on the same path. If the person is on the same path, I feel that if the person is on the same path, that we can all come together. I understand where the brother's coming, but I don't think that's the case with every woman that has a child.
Right.
And with any relationship you get into, now watch this. With any relationship, it's going to be some type of small battle with the mother and with the woman and the man. Meaning they got to fill each other out for certain scenarios, certain situations. If they are of Yah, if they're of the Torah, they should, I will hope, come together in that scenario and probably sit down with the children. Maybe explain with the children, hey, you know, this was his belief. This was ours at one point. We sat down. We went through some stuff together. This is like this is what I probably missed, or this is what I didn't miss. You know what I'm saying? In a perfect world, that's how it would go. Would it go like that? I don't know. But if that was in my situation, I'm going to make sure it go that way. But it's a tough situation. This whole thing tough. Now, y'all got me thinking. This whole thing is kind of scary too, man. It's kind of scary, but yeah.
Okay. Those are all good thoughts, and we're actually going to be talking about that. I think the week after next, most high willing, the whole about like not stepchildren, but something like that. So we will be circling back to even discuss that. How do you come together in situations like that? And so we can start doing closing remarks. One thing I do want to say to that last thing is that's an interesting concept, Zebulon. But I do think that for this particular conversation, like that can't even be up for discussion. So if you're in a situation where you're a step parent or whatever, that's just a whole nother added layer you don't necessarily want to have to deal with, especially given the fact that you are the new parent.
Right.
So I'm glad you pointed that out. I had no idea. But okay, so I'm not sure who wanted to. Zebulon, you want to say some closing thoughts, and then Shemai, you want to go last? I don't know. I can go last.
I'll go last. It don't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, just just in closing, and I'll try to be as I won't be Hebrew brief. I'll be white man brief. But again, I think when everything is said and done, I think that when you're dealing with marriages and unions, there's a lot of time, like Shamar kept saying again, time is important. And nobody likes to waste time because it's the one commodity that cannot be recovered after it's lost. So nobody wants to waste their life in a situation that's not going to be fruitful. How do we solve these problems? How do we at least effectively address them? Courting, and you go into the situation with the understanding that, yes, we have to believe the same things. Maybe it sounds a little, for some people, whatever, but to avoid issues way down the line, we have to come into the situation, into the courting or relationship, having the same core beliefs. You can't believe in Christ, and I don't believe in Christ. You can't believe in Yah, and you believe in Ahura Mazda of Zoroastrian belief. We have to be in the same book with the same principles of lifestyle, at least, for it to even go any further. Other than that, I just don't see the viability of it, of a relationship that's not based on having the same principles along those lines.
Yep, and I would agree. I think this was a good conversation. I think, for those who might watch it later on or was watching with us, I hope that y'all glean some information from it. And like I keep saying, I'm a hopeless optimistic, and I hope that whatever level you're at, that you'll be steadfast in what you believe, and that let whoever belongs to you, let them gravitate towards you, and not necessarily to ever compromise what you personally believe to be with anybody. I think that's another thing that needs to be said as well. So Shema, you wanna take us out, Shema?
No, I'm playing.
Oh man.
I'm playing. I think this was a great topic. A lot of things were said from the other panel members. I hope those that might have been tuning in live and might be tuning in later
get something from it. For me, the biggest thing that I have to offer as far as some type of word, I would say courting. That's it. I mean, I don't want to make this about that. I'm just saying just the beginning part. And then, you all could figure out the things as you go after that point. And that's it. White man closing.
Yes, that was good. I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of y'all for code switching for the show. So thank you to everybody that tuned in. Most High willing, we'll be back next week. I can't never remember what time it is. It's 12 Central and then 1 Eastern. And you can always join if you want to. You can join the chat like people were doing earlier. We welcome your feedback. And share the video. And we also have a YouTube page, Love Language Roundtable. Go like that, subscribe to it. Go like and subscribe to the Facebook page as well so you can stay in tune with what we're doing. So anyway, until next time, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.